Good afternoon, everyone. Actually, good morning. As Mike mentioned, my name is Guy, and I'm from Google Play Business Development team, and focusing on Southeast Asia. And in my role, I basically work with games and app developers, around the world, and help them to become successful, especially with a focus on Southeast Asia. So for today, what I'm going to be talking about is the exciting market for Southeast Asia. I'm from this region. I'm actually originally from Thailand. So I love talking about Southeast Asia. It's a dynamic market. I know it has some challenges, but also I think it has lots of exciting opportunities. For today, I will go over some of the key trends in Southeast Asia market in terms of the overall market. Then I will share some perspectives based on what we've seen at Google Play on what it takes to build successful gaming business within Southeast Asia. And then lastly, I'll share some of the global best practices that we have that are relevant for game developers. So let me dive right in. In terms of the region, I'll go through very quickly. It's a large market, 600 plus million population. The internet penetration has been increasing, and I keep updating this slide actually. I think this is thanks to growing mobile smartphone penetration in the region. So I think this is overall great news for developer. And here is, I think, the money slide. In terms of the market size in Southeast Asia, and this is by a third-party research, Newzoo. So in 2016, Southeast Asia mobile gaming market is already 1.4 billion. That's big. And to put that into perspective, if you contrast this to Taiwan, it's actually close to surpassing, or if not already surpassed, Taiwan mobile gaming markets. And on top of that, I think what's even great news is that the growth rate is phenomenal. You can see that the CAGR growth rate projected to grow to 2019 is actually 45.7%. So that puts South Asia as the fastest mobile gaming market in the world. So I think this is exciting if you are focusing on this region. And we also see this from Google Play perspective as well. This is trends that we share at our developer conference late last year. So within Google Play, within Southeast Asia, we saw 90% growth in people who make purchases, in-app purchases through Google Play. That's 90% growth year over year. And a big part of that is actually driven by orders coming from direct carrier billing. And this is, I will speak to a little bit more details in the next few slides. So basically, strong momentum of growth within Southeast Asia market. Now, coming closer to home a little bit in terms of Android, which is Google platform for smartphone. For Android also see very strong market share within Southeast Asia. In 2016, market share for Android is over 85% within Southeast Asia, and we see that that's projected to grow or to continue to be strong over the next few years as well. Now, in terms of the market breakdown, I know most of you here are from this region, so you're familiar with all the key countries that are here. But if you're not from this region, thinking about this region, Southeast Asia is big, but it's made up of a large number of markets. And there are 6 key markets, especially for game developers. There are more developed markets like Singapore and Malaysia, where ARPU is very high. Users are more developed, they're on higher-end smartphones, but these are smaller markets. And then there are the large, big markets like Indonesia and Thailand, which is very fast-growing. The ARPU are lower, but and users are on lower-end device, and there are some challenges around data and connectivity, but it's very fast-growing, and we definitely do see a lot of momentum in these 2 markets. And then finally, there is the also high growth, but a bit more earlier stage, like Philippines and Vietnam. Philippines is a market, actually, even though it's early, a lot of developers test their game launch in Philippines. So that's something you can consider as well. Vietnam is a very interesting market, and we have been seeing a lot of growth and momentum in the last few months. I'll speak to this a little bit more. We have launched a couple of major direct carrier billing partnerships within Vietnam, and we've seen that has helped fuel the growth in Vietnam market. So that was, overview of Southeast Asia. Hope to give you a bit of a flavor of the market. Now, I want to share with you a few perspectives based on what we've seen, from Google Play on what it takes to build successful gaming business within Southeast Asia. So first, starting with the type of games and genre that perform well within this region. From monetization perspective, RPG, strategy, action games do really well within Southeast Asia. So you can see these are the top grossing titles, in Southeast Asia. Another interesting thing is that the top grossing titles across markets share some similarities, meaning that games that perform well in one markets like Thailand tend to perform well in other markets like Malaysia and for example like Singapore as well. So I think this is great news for game developers. If you have a title that performs well in a market, chances are there's a very good chance that it will perform well in other markets within Southeast Asia. Casual titles also perform well in the region as well. There's a lot of downloads, a lot of users in the region, and we think that the monetization for that genre is upcoming. But in the meantime, strategy, RPG, and action perform very well from monetization perspective. In terms of IPs that do well in this region, the good thing about Southeast Asia is that Southeast Asia is quite welcoming to a variety of IPs. Asian IPs do very well. Some of the Chinese theme, Japanese manga perform really well in this region. But some of the international and Western IP also perform well in this region. So I think there's sort of a wide opportunity for many developers to take advantage if they have access to strong IPs. Another important thing to be successful within Southeast Asia, based on what we've seen, is localizing your game to the local markets. And we have been seeing that trend, especially over the past year as well. Top game developers, globally, regionally, and even local ones, localize their games as well as their store listing in local language. Example here, as you can see, is actually Supercell localized Heyday in Thai. One of the top games in Indonesia is from a Chinese developers, and they localize the entire game as well as store listing in Bahasa. So this is a trend that we increasingly see, and we encourage all developers who want to focus on this market to really localize their games. And it's not just language. Increasingly, developers are localizing contents and pricing for the market as well. Another thing that I want to highlight in terms of building successful gaming business in this region is in terms of making your game, your file size, suitable for this region. So this is the data of average APK size of top 30 grossing titles within key Southeast Asia markets. And you can see it's around 56 megabytes. At first glance, it's probably not as small as you would think. But we know that it is still quite a bit smaller than the top APK size of games in, for example, Korea market. We know that it's about 15 to 20% smaller than top grossing titles in terms of APK size in Korea. So this is something you want to keep in mind as well, because in Southeast Asia, there are still markets where data connectivity is still expensive for users. 3G, 4G is not as readily available to many users. So you want to keep this in mind as you focus on this market. Another thing that I want to highlight is in terms of marketing. So successful title in this region do local marketing. And this range from online acquisition to influencer marketing. Community and social is also very important in markets like Thailand and increasingly Indonesia. We have seen game developers that leverage events, esports very well to help build their brands and their loyal user base. So this is something that you want to think about. If you are not originally from this region, we have seen an increasing trend of developers building their presence in this region, or if they don't build direct presence, they might have partners with local with local teams who have experts in this area. If you are a local developer it's time for you to think even more, how can you be more effective and more sophisticated in how you do marketing within this region. In terms of payment, which is, I think, one of the biggest challenges that I hear from developers all the time for Southeast Asia, and this is a part where Google Play is helping to accelerate the progress to help developer monetize better. So this is a list of carrier partners where we have direct carrier billings. So direct carrier billing means that through Google Play, users can pay for in-app purchases with their mobile phone carriers. As you can see here, we have all the major mobile carriers across all key markets in Southeast Asia. And what I want to particularly call out is Vietnam. So when I shared this slide last year, we had one carrier as our partner in Vietnam. But as of earlier this year, we added 2 more carriers in Vietnam, so Mobifone and Vietnam Mobile. And because of this, we have about 80% coverage of subscribers in Vietnam. And as a result of this as well, as I mentioned earlier, we have definitely seen strong growth coming from Vietnam market, even in just the past few months. So this is a market that you also want to keep your eye on the horizon, as we see that it's going to continue to. Another news I want to share is that we launched physical gift cards in Indonesia, actually just last month. And it's available across about 15,000 Indomaret and Aerophone stores in Indonesia. We know this is really important because Indonesia, credit card penetration is still a little bit low, and we think that with the launch of physical gift cards, it will help developers monetize even more in a growing market like Indonesia. So quick things about gift cards in Southeast Asia. So we also have gift cards in Singapore as well. We have something called print on receipt in Indonesia as well. This is where you go up to the cashier and then say that you want to top up X number of dollars for your Google Play gift cards. So that's already available. And we hope to be able to share some good news about our gift cards launch in markets like Thailand and Malaysia very soon as well. One quick tip that I want to share, based on what we've seen from developers that have been successful in monetizing, is actually using your in-game messaging to promote forms of payments. So this is examples of game developers who has basically used their in-game messaging platform to highlight to their users that, hey, now you can pay with either gift cards available at these retailers, or DCB with these mobile carriers. So we've seen that by doing that, it can help monetize your games better. Another thing that I want to highlight in terms of building successful business in Southeast Asia is thinking about affordability. So users in this region has different level of incomes, and thinking about how to make your in-app purchases affordable for users in this region is really important. And because of that, Google Play has enabled what we call sub-dollar pricing. So this is a feature where, as a developer, you can price your in-app purchases below US 99 cents. It can be as low as, for example, in Thailand, 10 baht, which is about 30 cents US, or 3,000 Indonesia rupiah. So this is important because you want to match the user's disposable income and willingness to pay in this region. And we have seen both local and global developers leveraging these sub-dollar pricings. You can see some of the examples of the games here. You probably recognize some of the games, both local and large global developers. And we have case study of, for example, DivMob, which is a developer based in Vietnam. They have leveraged sub-dollar pricing, and after they've done that, they see 3x increase in transactions and in number of buyers. So think about pricing locally as well. And Google Play also, we support developers who price in this fashion. So there's a section of the Google Play Store where we features games that offer sub-dollar pricing. So a quick summary of what we think are important for you to be successful building your gaming business in Southeast Asia. So first of all, again, localize your games for each of the key markets, especially Thailand, Indonesia, Vietnam. Pricing, again, I've just mentioned. Think about how you can localize your pricing, and also think about how you can leverage your in-game messaging to promote different forms of payments that are increasingly available to your users. In terms of marketing, think local. Think how you can If you're not from this region, think how you can partner with some of the people who have local expertise. Lastly, work with Google Play. So we continue to grow our payment channels. We continue to grow DCB partners, and we work with these partners to promote games and developers on Google Play. Google Play also work on a number of localized promotions according to Southeast Asia calendar, like Ramadan, Songkran, and so on. And there are opportunities where we actually promote and highlight developers as well. So now comes to the last part of my presentation. Just want to share some quick tips. These are general global best practices, not just related to Southeast Asia, but I think it's really important for developers to recognize. And there's just 3 slides. So the first thing is, this is something that we announced at GDC in San Francisco a few months ago. So now the Google Play algorithm would take into consideration engagement when promoting games and apps. So what this means is that instead of looking at just install, now in terms of how your games engage with users and gamers are becoming an increasing importance factor in the algorithm to promote games. What it means is that you want to think about your retention, user engagement, and all of these factors now go into the algorithm to promote games on Google Play. Another feature that we have, especially supporting indies as well as some of the larger developers as well, is early access on Google Play. So this is a section where game developers can launch their games that's still in development on the Play Store itself, and we provide exposure and visibilities from these games. So this is a great opportunity if you still want to refine your game, get the feedback to improve your games and improve various metrics. I have some local developers I've worked with, for example, Post Night is one of the games from Malaysia. They were in early access, and they've got great feedback to improve their games. So these are some of the things that you want to consider. You can actually self-nominate your games. So if you write down the URL there, you can go and nominate your games if you are indie and developing and want to be part of early access. The last information that I have is, again, we announced at GDC as well. We launched something called Conversion Benchmark in the Play console. So if you develop on Google, on Android, now you can go see benchmark on how your games perform in terms of store listing conversion compared to peers in your similar game genre. So for example, here you can see like 2 dots, one of the top games, and you can see how the conversions compare to games in similar genres in different markets. And based on that, you can tweak and define, refine how you do your store listings. So with that, that's the end of my presentations. Here are some of the links that if you want to follow some of the latest information about Google Play and Android platform. And I think I have maybe a bit of time for Q&A. So if anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Questions for Guy?
My name's Troy Guy. Thank you for the opportunity to ask a question. And it's a simple one, really. When you were talking about your sub-dollar pricing options, I noticed there was nothing for the Philippines.
Oh, actually, it is available for the Philippines as well. So I think it's available in over 12 emerging markets. I just didn't show the example, but it's available for Philippines as well.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much.
Right. I got a question for you. We are witnessing a very serious problem currently in South Asia about the refund issue. And do you have any ideas on that? Because we're standing as a Vietnamese publisher in South Asia, and we witness something like the players, they purchase for an item in the games. And we know that the Google policy, they got some for the refund something. And when they try to purchase an item and they get refund directly, eventually we got nothing, but the players didn't get the item they want. So what do you think about it?
Thank you for the question. So we are aware that there are some issues related to refunds and some potential abuse. And actually, earlier this year, we launched something that's called Voided Purchase API. So this is an API where developers can get the information about the transactions that were refunded. And you can use these informations to actually claw back items that were, in-app purchase items that were given to the refunded transactions, or you can reinstate the users back to the state before they made the purchase. And a lot of developers have already been using this voided purchase API. And when they do this, when they call back these items that they had given to the refund transactions, they've seen significant drop in the number of transactions that are refunded. So this is one of the solutions that we have for the developer. And again, many developers globally and in this region has already started implementing this voided purchase API.
But like I say, it's like for just couple of transactions. But how about it's coming for like massive transaction for that? Like we integrate the IPA avoidable refund for in our SDK, or what your suggestion? Because like in my view, like it's okay for just couple of like cheat and fraud about refunding, but it's going to become like for trending for the users. Like they know that I can say it's a gap between the developer and Google. And how about it, they coming for thousands or even 10,000 transactions for cheat and fraud?
As far as I understand, the void purchase API works for whether it's just a few transactions that you see, or for some of the larger developers where they may see many more transactions. So the solutions should address whether it's just a few transactions or many transactions as well. So yeah, so we think this is some solution that should work.
Guy, I actually have a quick question for you.
Sure.
On your experience in localization for Southeast Asia, do you find that you can localize once for Southeast Asia in general, or do you really need to localize for every single country?
So for Southeast Asia market like Singapore and Malaysia, you can use English. So if you have English version of the game already, you can readily publish that. For Thai market is very essential to localize in Thai. That's what we have seen. So you want to localize in Thai. And then for Indonesia, you want to localize for Bahasa
But not just languages, but for example, color selection, and in some cases even art style makes a very big difference.
Right. From that perspective, meaning more general like culturalizations of the games, we have seen that generally the developers that have been successful in this region, they can do one general localization for this region on those perspectives, and they have been quite successful. So I think as long as you think about South Asia as an overall market and culturalize some of the aspect, I think you can still be quite successful.
Great.
Hi, Guy. Just a quick question. Can you touch on a few about chargeback in the App Store? Is it possible for the developer to dispute it, or is it just that the developer will just to cover the chargeback fee, if in case of fraud?
Again, so I think with chargeback and refunds, what we've seen again is voided purchase API has really worked to reduce both refunds and potential chargeback. And if there are other issues beyond that, I think going through our process for mediating.
Wonderful, Guy. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your time with us today.
Thank you very much.